jums, kas runā. Jā, bet es arī tagad dzirdu sevi austiņā. Hello and welcome to Creative Tuesdays. We are very happy to see you already on the second meetup that is in this wood modular housing concept workshop. Today we have a very special guest. You probably already see him on camera, but we will introduce him a bit later. However, we will start with a short introduction. What is Modular House Hackathon? So I will share my screen. Also for people who are here on Zoom, you can definitely use the chat if you want to ask some questions. And at the end of the meetup, we will also have an option to ask questions. So you can also ask them in voice. And of course, those who are on Facebook, you can also write questions and comments, and we will do our best to answer them as they come in. However, usually if you want to interact, it's better to be on Zoom. And those who watch later, of course, then we are also very happy for that. And this is why we are recording the meetup. So if you are here, it means that you are being recorded. So the Modular House Hackathon is a very new challenge. As you can see, we still have 15 days till the registration is closed. So some time to consider. And what it's about, the idea is to create a concept house that fulfills several criteria. This is the second hackathon we are doing in this specific approach. The first one, for those who remember, was 3D concrete competition, which basically means that we have identified a problem in industry or an opportunity in industry. Usually they are matched. Where in the 3D concrete case, we were looking for interesting geometries to print, and in the case of a modular house hackathon, we are looking for a budget-friendly modular house because a lot of current options on the market are more on the expensive side. So the task for this competition in general is to design a modular house with 28,000 euro budget. However, of course, as all elements, it's divided in several steps. So the first and most important step will be this hackathon on 26th of May. That will be a 4-hour idea competition, but we have several warm-up activities. So starting already previous Tuesday, we are doing warm-up events. where you can basically see and learn more about building with wood. The first one was on modular innovations in modular houses, and today we will talk more about prototyping. On the 16th of May, which is tomorrow, no, 26th of April, we have an excursion to Pavasaris, which is modular house Windows Factory and Vigo. If you haven't registered yet, you can. We still have 2 or 3 places available. However, it's also fine if you can't this time. We will take a lot of photos and later give you a sum up of what we saw there. After that, on 16th of May, we will have excursion to Latvijas Finieris factory in Balderai. So that's another option to see in real action and interact with material. And of course, today we will have a great story on how to prototype. The question, what comes after, is stage 2. It's quite currently not bold yet because it will come after the competition. But the idea is that there will be a 6-month period where you create scale models. And after that, we will do user testing in spring of 2024, where we will build 1 to 3 functional prototypes, which basically are already full-size houses that have won. So in each step, we select teams that go further. After the competition, we will have approximately 10 teams that will pass. And after stage 2, it will be 1 to 3 teams that will continue on. What are the criteria? So basically the first one, and for me it's the most important one, is creativity and innovation. So your concept has to be a bit different from the existing ones on the market. The second one, which is very important for the clients, of course, is feasibility and cost optimization. So can at least the standard element module, if you can also provide more expensive modules, but the standard module should be in these 20,000 euros. Your team has to be able to execute it. So your team can later change or grow, but your team will be evaluated too. So basically, do you have an engineer or a construction expert or student? Do you have an architect? Do you have a designer? So when you register, you can mark what is your competency. You can also form the teams on site, and teams are allowed to merge. So for example, if one team won, but they see that for the next stage, they really need a designer, they can look at other teams that had good designers, but maybe didn't pass and get them there. Usability, adaptability, and relevance to the target audience is quite important. What does it mean? For example, if the house is being used, how it accommodates different amount of people that can use it. For example, a family or a solo person. Sustainability is also very important. It means does the material use is in accordance with the Paris Agreement and alternative energy sources has been implemented. Of course, it also costs something, so that probably is an add-on element which you can implement, but sustainability is a big target. And the last but not least one is presentation quality. So your pitch has to be understandable and be on time. You will have 3 minutes to pitch your idea, so you have to really focus. You literally have 30 seconds on each of the elements, but these evaluation criteria are throughout the competition. So we also look at it in the second stage, etc. So getting through first stage shouldn't be that complicated. That's about the competition. About Creative Tuesdays, where we are here today. So Creative Tuesdays happen almost every Tuesday here in, I wanted to say here in RTU, but in this time here in Marburg studio. And what we do is we try to think more creatively about problems. And this starting past year, we have started doing these larger arcs of lectures. So it's not just random lectures, but you actually have some goal. In this case, the goal is to build a house. Every topic we have a new, every meetup we have a new topic, which means when you register, you can ask for some specific skills you want to learn. Also for modular house competition, you can see that not all next lectures are announced yet, because if you have some specific topic you would like to find out more about, you can mention that. So one of the topics we are considering is also automatic form generation and then implementing GPT in that. So AI, why not? Maybe that will happen next meeting. So about the workshop itself, we usually start with a short presentation, and then we have some discussions after that. Well, I will not go you full intro. I think a lot of you have already heard that. Also, Rūdis has been here, so I don't have to tell him again. I think 4 years ago or 3 years ago, I think you were on one of the first meetups. But it is important that each lecture gets recorded, so you can watch them later. The link will be in the description. And you can also see that there is the first lecture, which was on innovations in modular house design, where we looked at different competition winners that have won in previous events globally, not only our organized. And that was what to do. And in this case, we will show you how to arrive at. And our belief is that prototyping is a good way how to get your concepts better. This is the link where you can get the videos. This is if you still are interested tomorrow at 8, I guess, we depart to the factories. So we have 2 to 3 seats in the car. Let us know if you're interested. And well, that's all from my side. I think we can welcome Rūdis with large applause to the studio. Yes, very loud applauses. And let's hear his short introduction on prototyping building with wood and his experience. I have met Rūdis a few times in my life, and every time he has some more interesting aspects to his story. So it's really interesting what else I will find out this time. So I'm also very interested.
Yes, thank you, Matis. So shortly about me, architect, person interested in a lot of things, especially, of course, the architecture, also maybe entrepreneurship, and basically finding the ways how to maximize the possibility of expressing yourself and doing something good and valuable. So yeah, since we are here today talking about this modular wood building, that's why I also wanted to focus more on my wooden side of my personality.
Right.
So I will maybe then share my screen and start the presentation.
We already tried that. It should work. Hopefully, the TV just shows your picture, so you have a nice backdrop. But otherwise,
okay, great. So it's
if it shows in your screen, it shows on our screens. Yes, you can show present. Yes, I can currently see everything. Perfect.
Nice, perfect. So yeah, shortly about me and why wood. So this is me in the, I don't know, was it early or late teen years, but something around that. So basically my father was a carpenter. So I had a chance to use his wood workshop and had to help him out time to time. So in the summers, in my teen years, I used to make some extra money by building some wooden tea houses for some people who wanted a nice garden. Basically, yeah, what was the name? Pergola or tea house?
Yeah, I think pergola.
Yeah. So yeah, these were basically like my first more important and large woodworks, and these were done with the minimal planning, basically maybe maximum a sketch on one A4 page, and that's it. And more like, yeah, just look what material you have and build. So yeah, afterwards I started to study architecture. And then I had a chance to try out wood in more artistic ways and to find out many different properties of it. So we just had to pick a material and explore it. And for me, it of course was wood. So many abstract woodworkings, but also with basically just finding different qualities of wood. And I think that's also an important point if you want to design, I don't know, a modular wooden house or wooden house as such. Wood has always very many different aesthetics and properties. So yeah, it's just nice to explore them. And yeah, during the architecture studies, of course, making as many wooden scale models and projects with it, it was just something that came naturally to me because it seemed, yeah, like an easy and nice way to do things. Then yeah, hackathons or hackathon. Yeah, during the studies, I also started to take part in many different hackathons. This one was actually Garage 48 in Estonia. So here we, together with my good study mate Ritvars, we explored basically how to make free-form wooden structures. And basically in this hackathon, the main focus was on how to find relatively universal connectors. So maybe here you can see 3 different types. There was this metal sphere with some metal rods glued in the wood. There was like a metal round plate with metal wings that were driven by screws to the wood. And there was also this this kind of metal plates embedded inside the wood and with a welded connection. So we really, tried to explore many ways. How could we basically design free shape wooden structures? And it was quite an abstract idea because we didn't have any, very practical, we need to make this wood shape for something. We had more the idea of exploring what could we possibly make. Yeah, there was another hackathon where we took a similar approach. And this time we were thinking more about floating structures or like some wooden pavilions for maybe also like in some touristic objects like shelters. So here we try to explore how can we create this really nice natural looking bent wooden structures with some plywood ribs and also some really thin plywood boards on top of that. So yeah, that also was a interesting project to explore. And then also during the studies, I applied for this Latvian National Forestry scholarship. And it took me to many excursions. And one of them was in this forest and wood products research development Mecca. I don't know, maybe now it's already integrated into the new Latvian bio technology university.
We actually have their logo separately. They have a new building, and they really have grown a lot. So
yeah,
finally, they have high ceilings where they can test some larger prototypes. So they were really happy about the project.
Yeah. I heard they progressed a lot. So yeah, I was visiting them, and of course met the main guy, Andres, and quite straight away after meeting him, he started to tell me about this place Tervete and the National Park of Tervete, somewhere a bit behind Jelgava. And basically, so there was this quite a prominent location, which is like the entrance of the natural park. And there is this large open area that was free and kind of asking for something to be placed there. And the idea was that there should be something representing the wooden industry and maybe especially the housing industry in Latvia. So basically, Andres offered me as an architecture student that maybe I could come up with some ideas for the object for this place. And of course, the first thing was necessary was to also invite Ritvars to collaborate on this project. So yeah, Ritvars Krasniņš. So we started to work on the location and the task. How could we approach it? And if we wanted to present basically the Latvian wooden industry, we thought that we should go back to the roots, to the traditional Latvian homesteads, and this is one from the Open Air Museum. So we took this traditional house, which was this one is a smaller one. It was used not for living, but more like for storing goods. And we took this shape of it, and the idea for this exhibition was that we could take this traditional shape and place it in the designated area, basically as a black box. And then we could seemingly almost invisibly cut it in different parts and open it up. And what would turn out that from the outer, it maybe looked quite united and hidden, but when it opens up, each part discovers a different modern wooden construction being built in Latvia today. And it also would create this kind of courtyard, the sense of space between those volumes as it did in this traditional homestead. And of course, to make it really cool, the idea was that it could be on basically like a rails, or I think it's called rails, and it could move back and forth So it would have this very interesting moment of attraction when it opens up. So yeah, there were some first scale models. That's actually how the idea came up when Rūdis was sitting with this piece in his styrocut and kind of.
Yeah, I remember those rooms and tables.
Yeah. Architecture faculty, good old, still standing. Yeah, so that was the idea. So these were the form iterations. So it started with a bit more simple shape, and then came the final one. Yeah, here is just a quick illustration of the idea. How could it look in the place that it would be placed on a large terrace? And well, this video is like from a nighttime, so it will look more epic. And when it opens up, it basically reveals those different constructions with the shapes and all the connectors. Yeah, we thought it could be a really nice spectacle for the entrance of the park and for the industry. So yeah, then we started to, so the idea of Andres was that it would be like kind of like a voluntarily project for the those wooden industry companies. So they would take part in the project and contribute to the project with what they actually do, with making these constructions, with making these volumes. So we made the scale model. Actually, Andres with some students made it. And then we went to Tervetas Dabas Parks and presented the idea to those companies, the representatives. And it was also sliding and so. And yeah, and actually one of the companies that was most keen on the idea and that kind of took the main role in the project was a building company, Pavasars. Maybe that's why you're also going to the excursion.
Just trying to repeat the success story.
Maybe, yeah. Well, they are really great guys there, and could be even maybe one of the leading modular house companies in Latvia. They have really nice facility, professional people, great software. So yeah. So we started to work with the engineers, show the video, sell them the idea. But yeah, before we wanted to go into the details and basically have our only computer built exhibition, have it built in the nature, we wanted to kind of test it out a bit more before the whole job gets done. So we thought about making a full-scale model. So yeah, we had basically the design in the computer, and it was also designed basically a frame of each of those volumes. Then I think this is in Mecca, and what we need to prepare at first was, I think here we will be cutting basically those wooden stilts that we will need for the frame. But the main work was with the designing also all those free form connections that we have from those different frames coming together in different angles. We thought that we will basically use plywood triangles to strengthen all those connections. So what we did, we took some friends, of course, from the university, and in 1 or 2 days, we just solved all the possible triangles we're gonna need. And then the next day we went to Tervetas Nature Park, and in their workshop area, we built the models in scale 1:1. It was a really nice sunny workshop. And yeah, we used this rope as diagonals because the shapes we were not sure, are they going to be like super stable? So it's always nice to use extra diagonals when you're not sure about things. And yeah, this is quite close to completion, I think, of the pieces. And yeah, the great thing is that we did calculations and other things, I guess, quite correct. So they all went together quite well. Everyone was happy at the end of the day. And we were ready to place this scale model in the place the actual exhibition will be built. So, so there it is being built. I guess this time we were like quite, okay, you know, it looks good. I think we're quite professional, so we don't need to change a lot of things actually. But one of the main things we did change was, I think we mirrored basically the whole construction because kind of, I guess the way you see in this picture, this where the guys are standing, it's the main view of point for the visitors. So the whole construction seemed quite closed from this side. So we just decided, yeah, it will be more open and more approachable if we mirror it. So yeah, scale models are always quite nice. Yeah, then we started to design basically the foundations for the exhibition. And the idea was to make this terrace on wooden stilt foundations, like you maybe see sometimes for some, I don't know, buildings being built in the beach or in the water, basically on those wooden stilts. So there was this company, Jaudakoks, who produced the piles. And then there was this really nice, basically, yeah, road construction company, Igate, who came with a tractor and made the holes. And so the workers placed those wooden foundation stilts inside the ground in a very accurate manner with GPS accuracy and everything. So it was taken care of very nice. And there is already some event, I guess, student books or something, and maybe it could have stayed like that. I guess people enjoyed it very much as it was.
Like Rome, there is this one courtyard where they have cut down the columns with historical and new ones and in different heights, and people just, you know, climb and walk and sit there like a temple.
Yeah. So simple things sometimes are the best. So yeah, kids jumping and falling, and us doing the same thing. So so yeah, the next thing was to design basically the frame for the terrace. And you see in this picture that it's quite complicated. It's in very many different angles, and later you will understand why. We will show you that. And as you can see in this picture, it was also kind of changing the level because there were some steps. So you could, so basically we're just following the level of the pathway that was climbing up. So yeah, the wooden under construction for the terrace. And yeah, basically here you can see the red ones are the rails that basically each pair of rail has its own hydraulic motor underneath the terrace. And basically also the wooden decking of the terrace is also following the same direction as the rails. And it was all necessary because of the idea that we wanted to have these rails very hidden, that they are not actually visible. So we have those really slick wheels for each volume that basically fit right into the gap between the decking, and underneath the decking is the actual rail. So the whole construction was aligned, so this could be built in this way. Some of the main companies that supported the project, especially the Pavasars housing company. And I realized that I don't have actually a video from the opening, so I think, I'm not sure how the links work.
In PowerPoint, or you're in Google Sheets?
Yeah, we can watch later. Basically, there was just a video.
You have to drive and see it in.
Yeah, there was a video of how the actual building opens up.
You have to watch it later.
Yeah,
maybe it's on YouTube. We can later watch it, or it's not on
in
YouTube.
Facebook. It's in Facebook in Rūdis Rubenis Facebook page. Yeah. So, but now, of course, the important thing is about what went well and what went wrong. And actually, one of the main things that went wrong during the process, because it's a very, I think when you build something experimental, you either try very different prototypes and then like actual like the real thing, and then another real thing version, and then another improved real thing version. Or either, when you have only one shot, then you kind of accept that there probably will be some failures. And in this process, I think one of the most, of course, complicated things was this moving rail mechanism. To kind of realize building, that opens up because it weighs, the whole thing weighs several tons, and to have it opening up and closing nicely, it had some challenges. And actually, one of the main challenges was the designing process itself, because we could easily find some engineers who understand how the buildings work, how the buildings should be built. And then we had some engineers, quite outsourced engineers, who understood how these mechanical moving parts work. But there was basically the lacking competency was in how these two worlds come together, because it's two quite different disciplines. And so basically, at the last moment when things had to be decided, how do we where we place the rails, in what distance, and how this mechanism comes together with the building, I guess we just had to make the decision with what we had. And I think there was one point when somebody just said, yeah, just draw where the rails will be. And I was like, okay, I just kind of looked at the volumes and trying to place them symmetrically. But what happened in real life is that this volume, when you look at it in 2D, this alignment of the rails maybe seems like quite equal for the shape of the volume. But actually in life, it's also the roof is sloping up in this thicker part of the volume.
The weights are different,
so
right?
yeah, so this corner is super heavy.
Oh no.
And this is quite light. And when and the mechanism, the pushing mechanism, I think it's probably in this side. But still, when you have this volume that is very long,
you start to
exactly, and it starts to kind of like dribble a bit. So that was one problem that we faced. And another problem was that we used those experimental wooden stilt foundations. And I guess what happened with them was that I don't know why. I'm not that good in, don't have that much experience as a geologist. But what happened that when it was raining, in some points, just the water soaking in was kind of creating some empty spaces underneath some of the stilts. We saw that just the sand is kind of dropping in around them. And basically some of the wooden stilts, I think, were quite significantly lowering. And combining that when the understructure gets a bit uneven, and you have also this dribbling of the volume, I think this one volume started to sometimes jump off the rail and kind of get stuck. And then it needed a lot of work to put it back on. And yeah, and so a lot of times it was that the exhibition was either closed or open, because it was quite hard to manage it, that it moves seamlessly all the time. It closes and open. And of course, when you think of these volumes each weighing pretty lot, and you have those hydraulic mechanisms pushing them close and open, it's of course you need quite a lot of safety, that someone watching when it's closing so it doesn't
But you know, that's so interesting. I remember in construction mechanics, and I think you have the same features and process I had, right? And then I remember the first lecture, they were like, so there are two types of mechanics, you know, the dynamic and static ones. So you are very lucky, you don't have to worry about dynamic ones. And I was like, look, I could probably be interesting to learn about something about it, right? And then you literally like, I think nowadays we live in a world where you can't, you know, divide this is static and this is dynamic. It all kind of transfer, and it's good.
Well, that's the thing, that I think it's still quite divided, but of course,
it is. But if
in many projects like this one, you just see the gap, and it's
because we built this Huggins chair, I think along the same like years in this National Botanic Garden area, and we also implemented this kind of thing, like the chair. Oh boy, it was enough. So
is it still rolling?
It still goes, yeah. Like Edwin did a really good job. So he actually comes from China every 2-3 years, and he kind of resands it, and it's like he's like taking it as his you know, like memorial thing. So
his contribution to the botanical garden.
But otherwise, I think we were very lucky that our spans were very small. So, you know, like in a chair, it is kind of easier to solve, but as it gets bigger, and even with the chair, we had issues where the other sides, like there was opening event and we couldn't bring anything because it just didn't do it again.
Perfect.
You can click on the chat and move on.
I am. Where can I access the Zoom chat?
If you're on Zoom,
perfect. Yes, so this is one of the videos that I wanted to show, where basically
it might be that you shared the screen.
You can stop sharing,
and when you share, you can
share with the
share
video.
in a triangle.
Yeah, the whole screen.
You can press with the video, with the sound, and then it will also take the sound from the video if there is sound.
Okay. So yes, the building opening up.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, with the smoke.
Which year was it? It was like 2019. Yeah, like the pre-COVID times, you know. If you think that, not that far long ago.
Yeah. And yeah, there you can see the scale of the actual building being built. Andres, of course,
being nervous.
Yeah, the building is not burning. We just thought that the smoke effect could be really cool when it opens up.
Great. Oh yeah, someone's coming out.
Me and Rītvars, happy that it works. And yeah, and you can maybe notice that the building is kind of floating a bit above the terrace, and on the volume on the right, you can kind of notice those small metal wheels rolling between the boards.
It's great.
So yeah, it's quite a nice and precise done project, but it's definitely quite complicated and requires some maintenance.
But it is great. Like this thing, you don't see that much. Like if I think about last like 5 years or something, you know, there hasn't been many headlines with something moving. Like it's so hard. Usually people just don't attempt it. I think it gets stuck at this kind of, you know, idea throwing thing. You write down some ideas, then you cross out all the moving ones and continue. So it's good that there are some people mad enough to try it.
Yeah, it's really, also if you now consider the weight of each volume and it's opening and then closing, and
but that was a crazy time. Like also we built these 3 houses at that time. I'm like, how the hell did they get away with that? You know, like from all the like moving stuff, etc. Like nowadays I would like, no, I wouldn't even attempt that. You know, in the sense like this whole like kind of everything seemed more easy to do. You know, like you didn't know all the regulations yet, you didn't know the limits. Like it is true that architects, as they get older, I think they get more cautious and skepticism, etc. So you have to work with the really young architects if you want to do crazy things, because they just don't know that stuff probably will not work.
Yeah, well, I guess that's probably quite true. So basically the project is still there. Not sure about whether when you will be there will the mechanism be working, but but yeah, the building is there, and we had some future plans about improving the exhibition with some night lights and some projections. So yeah, maybe for the future. Yeah, so that was shortly about this Viedais koks or smart wood project, about presenting the Latvian housing industry, wooden housing industry. Maybe, yeah, just to put a quick sketch also of another project I did. So afterwards, yeah, I got a chance to kind of realize my master thesis project, which was a central library in a smaller city in Latvia, Ogre. So yeah, in this project, the first sketches that I showed to the municipality, and basically the inspiration came from the city itself, of course, the nature and the traditions for this historic resort city. And it's really nice that they also had this wooden building tradition, because they all were wooden summer houses, like this one. This one is actually like a historic cafeteria, but it's also a wooden building. And it had these really nice qualities of details, those sloping roofs. So basically, that was the idea. Some qualities from these buildings were those that I tried to place in this proposal for the municipality. At first in just some basic sketches, and a year later also in my master thesis project, and in many in a chain of many happy accidental events, it turned out that we got a chance to actually afterwards, already with the architecture office, we got a chance to design this building as an actual project to be built. And so it was in 2021. So it is there. And in this project also, you may notice some similarities as in this previous one, that we tried to use many quite complex geometries for the roof shapes that were historically introduced, but also required a lot of experimenting in seeing all those different angles, having them being designed and built with all those different layers that building has. It was also a lot of experimenting on the site, working together with the companies producing each of the parts. So yeah, it's like no matter what the experience you have, it always is useful for some other project. So yeah, it ended up quite well. And for this project, of course, we also learned a lot in this was in Italy, learning with some basically metal connector suppliers, and also finding out some new.
Yes, or...
Now this one is a Rotoblas.
Rotoblas, yes.
Yes, for the metal connectors. Yeah. So basically, every time you talk about something modern with wood, you end up with using metal connectors. So
yeah. Forget about traditional connector.
Well, yeah, I guess the technology of working with wood has changed quite a lot.
It's convenient. Yeah.
So yeah, a nice wooden building with using all those glue laminated timber columns and beams and the slabs and the CLT walls. So in this one, we didn't have to work that much with the dynamic and moving parts. So in one sense, it was easier, but of course, way more detailed and much more work. So here you see just some details from the project, already working in basically working very deep into details, like the final part that is quite way far off already from prototyping, I would say. Yeah, so here was a window and basically a floor slab coming together with a wall, and here was the skylight detail. But why I showed this, that even even though, you know, we had a lot of experience, we had a lot of great partners, and I guess with the details that I showed before, I wanted to say that, you know, we paid super much attention to details because, you know, wooden buildings need quite a lot of details and care, so they last. But one thing we couldn't prevent or foresee completely was avoiding the moisture in the building when it was being built. So this is the picture from the time when the building is being assembled. And what happened, basically the contractor who was the construction company who was building it kind of was taking quite a lot of time to put the roof on the building. And it was summer and it was raining a lot. And what nobody thought that will happen was that those wooden slabs of the floor of these floors, they got so wet and soaked so much moisture that they started to expand. And when they expanded horizontally and only in one direction, because that's what those glue laminated timber slabs with the timber only in one direction, that's what they do, you know. They expand only in one direction, and they expanded with such a force that they started to kind of even break up the whole construction. There you can see the beam being a bit pulled away from the column. So yeah, there was another great problem to deal with. So many interesting solutions, like some extra pillars or some extra horizontal studs that we already had somewhere, but we had to put in more. And come up with a lot of new connectors. So basically, this is like the wooden floor slab that got wet and expanded, and these are the wooden beams. And these were the beams that you, and these are the columns that you saw in this picture. So these beams were kind of torn away from the columns and those metal connectors. So what the wooden engineers came up, on site, had to find a solution for the problem. So they came up with the idea of those massive wooden brackets that have a metal rod going through the entire floor and beams, and the plates that would support the beams from the bottom. So basically the weight being transferred to the column over here. And here you can see these kind of solutions being built in the actual library. So in the end, it is an quite amazing library, I think, people, and I think one of the main how to say things showing that people really enjoy it is social media. That a lot of times some people just send me, oh, you know, this person that I know somewhere just placed a story that it's a really nice building, and so, and yeah, and the thing is that with wooden buildings, you have to plan very carefully, think about a lot of details. And about this library, I would have to just to tell you the main things about the things we thought of in the project. It would take about 2 hours.
I have been.
Yeah, Matis has heard that one.
This is very, very interesting 2 hours. So
yeah. But you still have to be, if you want to make something that's something a bit different than something you can get off the shelf, and something that's, you know, standard, something that's a bit more innovative, you always have to be ready that there will be some problems, and that you really have to have those many layers, so that you do something in computer, then you prototype something on site, then something goes wrong, then you improve. Kind of like SpaceX blowing up rockets.
Yeah, right. And I really like that they said that, like, they specifically blow it up. Like, kind of, even I think most people don't read these press releases, but they kind of wrote there. So we actually expect the likelihood of rocket blowing up to be like 90-something%, and we are doing it to blow it up, to see how it blows up and when, you know, and that gives you a lot of data, right?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I guess that was one of the main takeaways when working with wood, that especially I think in such a project as a modular wooden house, I think the more steps you can have between, you design something very detailed in computer and then trying to build exactly that in the nature, it's way better, have the idea of what you want to build, then maybe build a very simple scale model out of any kind of wooden material you can have. It's not really important. Is it some very specific material? Just have like the process. Just the process when you're working with wood, it already tells you so much how you can connect it, how it feels. You put two things together and it already gives you a sense that, you always notice something with your senses that you wouldn't see in a computer. So yeah, the more of these steps of creating really sketchy wooden models in whatever size to doing the actual really precise scale models as designed in computer, yeah, that definitely benefits the whole process. So that would be my #1 recommendation. And it also makes the process way more fun.
Oh yeah, I think when you iterate, this word iteration, we a week ago had a workshop with this Ecker Design. They're a really great company. We were very lucky with Leah arranging this meeting, and they have designed this Koenigsegg car, the iconic from Sweden or something like this. The supercar. Yeah, exactly. So, and then also some architectural type elements. They also have this kind of electric ferry and some concepts for future, like large ferries with solar. Like it's like solar sails, like a sail, but it's for solar energy because you can get more energy out of that, etc. But the interesting thing was they said the same thing you just did. They said like the holistic approach. You kind of look at stuff together. You include the dynamic stresses, structural elements, etc. So you look at different inputs from different persons and engineers and experts from different fields. And the other one is kind of iterating a lot. So every iteration helps. So the idea is not to, just design, build, but iterate. And every next iteration gives you some more data and input how to make it better. So kind of product oriented manufacturing. It really works together with modular houses because modular houses are meant to be repeatable. So with each iteration, you can make them better, like Tesla cars. So for architects, it's much harder because they build the building and then then it's built. So it's nice to learn something from the manufacturing industry in that sense.
Definitely. So yeah.
Oh, this is nice. I remember seeing this video and I was like, oh shit, it's actually happening. I was like, wow, because I remember you came with this idea and it was super busy. I was like, oh, good luck. Hope you are already successful with it. And then I was like, after a month or something, I was like, whoa, it's already done. It is really encouraging. Like just seeing something actually happening from the concept to reality is such an inspiring thing to do, I think.
That's the way it is in nowadays digital world, that having something physical is always, still nice.
Well, we have some time for discussions. I have some questions that I wrote down. And meanwhile, if you have some participants here or someone who are watching Facebook Live, feel free to write questions. We will try to find them and convey them to Rūdis. You also can raise a hand and then we will allow you to speak in voice. But the first question is that we didn't send you in questions before because they formed organically while listening to this. So some of them might be surprising. One of these is, what's your work right now? What are you doing in your daily life? In a sense that are you still connected to prototyping in a way, or you have moved away from that?
Well, in a way, I'm definitely connected to it. So now I'm working in Riga City Development Department in architect's office of this department, and my main task in this position is working with this European project from the new European Bauhaus. This project is called The Desire. And the idea is about creating basically irresistible examples how to make a city look really, desirable.
It's
basically.
For Riga? I guess it's for Riga because it's Riga Development Council.
The project is actually quite vast. It's about creating guidelines for the entire European Union, but the nice thing is that it has this very practical side in Riga. So basically we have this Soviet times.
Heritage.
Sorry?
Heritage?
No, this residential building, one specific one in Pārdaugava in Ziepju Street. So it used to be like a dormitory building, and now it will be hopefully already this year. Some designing process will start of it, and it will be redesigned into social housing and some daycare centers. And the idea is basically, yeah, to put as many good ideas in it as we can and create it as an example for how should the city move forward with renovating both the buildings and also the territories around them. So the courtyard, because I think 60% of people in Riga lives in these buildings, but the renovation process is happening very slowly.
Oh yeah, it usually consists of, you know, putting a bunch of
and even that process of insulating the buildings is happening very slowly in Valmiera or some other places. It's
done.
Yeah, exactly.
They have moved on to different things.
Well, maybe it has a positive side that, you know, we can experiment and maybe raise the quality. And that's the thing, that there is also this Riga Energy Agency attached to the project. So there will be a lot of experimenting with many innovative heating technologies and about creating prefabricated wooden facade panels, if all those projects connect well. So for the heating, so it's not, you know, just some things you glue on the facade and it's not really sustainable or can't be reused, but maybe some prefabricated wooden panels with insulation, faster process and reusability. So yeah, so basically I'm kind of prototyping a lot in this process, but well, it is much more paperwork, of course, in the municipality than it could be in some student project. But it's just, you know, it's just a different approach, different level, and yeah.
It just reminded me, we talked, I think, a year ago, no, maybe half year, about this library project. So I was just today, no, but I think yesterday in Staircase, there is this Baltic German fund, with which we wrote it. So it actually got approved. So the modular library thing room, it will also happen. And I might be that it actually could connect to this project a bit too, because I just realized they're both kind of a bit
You're
modular.
all the time just connecting
No, I love like if I like, you know, at the end of my life I would like to have like this kind of the guy who connected things. Like I just steal the tagline from Nokia, you know, connecting people. I really like connecting ideas. So, yeah, but about connecting ideas, the other one is, I think you skipped a bit over, because as you said, it's 2-hour talk to talk about every innovation in a library, but it's also a very energy conscious place. So you did recycle a lot of stuff and heating, and like there was this sewage system that generates electricity and heat and whatever. So I think it's really nice that you kind of pivot from that to this, which is also a very energy oriented project.
Yeah, there will be a lot of innovations that we used in the library that will be actually implemented in this project in Ziepju Street. So yeah, a lot of things, and yeah, the bar was very high for the library. It was also the requirements from the European Union. It had to be passive house. It had to have this autonomous heating system. So yeah, tons of innovations there.
Another point, maybe it's not that connected to your work, but there are these pilot zones, and I just today we had a call with the university. They want to build some kind of 3D concrete thing. So from the previous competition, now we're building it for Latvian University of Latvia, and they were like, hey, we also need some in our campus. So we're thinking of how we can implement 3D concrete there. And then we said like, okay, but you probably will need building permit because there are some foundations, etc. And they're like, we already have a pilot zone for innovations, etc. So maybe you know something about it, maybe not, but have you heard about these pilot zones? Because a while ago we were like kind of involved with this Free Riga thing, and we were looking at these Scandinavian countries that have these experimental or prototyping zones already put in the building code, where you can kind of be more allowed to do crazy stuff. you have direct contact points with the, you know, you can kind of say, hey, this is scientific project. I would like to have a different chain of, like, at least you would have to like to have a person who understands that type of project on the other side, etc.
And so not just as exhibitions, but as actual buildings for.
Well, usually they still have to be certified with the same process, but it's just you have a contact point where you can kind of cut a bit through the red tape. It's similar to how COVID vaccines got, you know, like got more direct. Like, hey, yeah, you still have to qualify, but you get more prioritized access.
Yeah.
So in that sense, you still have to do all the papers, etc. But you have more like in person, and also they know, okay, this is prototyping zone. It means it's expected that stuff.
Yeah, well, I actually haven't heard, especially about the prototyping zones. It's quite
like
interesting.
each country calls them differently. In Latvia, they are called pilot zones. So pilot territories. So you might keep an ear to the ground. Maybe in your project it is interesting to also add that as a pilot ground. So it would help.
And it's a term already being placed in the.
It's currently whole Tiepsala apparently is a pilot zone. For example, they want to do specific lighting systems there that are smart, etc. It's easier for them to sanction because for lighting you also have a bunch of regulations, you know, illumination, etc., distances, etc., etc. So in these cases, you basically can say, hey, this is a different type of light. It still serves the same, but you know, and you at least get to say that. You get ears that listen to you, and you might together. It doesn't mean that automatically everything gets approved, that gets done there, but you have a person from the other side who also is informed that it's a prototyping zone. So in that sense, yeah, especially for these kind of science projects and social projects, I think it's a great thing, like, because that's one of the reasons why Scandinavia was so inventive with their, you know, they had kind of, I think in Finland they were quite popular. I think they were called prototyping zones like that, and then they basically say, hey, near university you have allocated plot of land where you can go a bit wild, and that's why we see these crazy pavilions, and you know, you get inspired and then you try to do them here, and everyone's like, whoa. Let's first do the calculations. You're like, oh, no one knows how to do calculations for that. So that's what usually happened in these pilots. So they failed these pilot things, etc. I think there was this one exhibition where each year they build a new pavilion, etc. So imagine each year building a new building in the same site. It would probably have some issues, especially public. You know, it's like, when you look at the code, if it's meant for more than how many people, etc., you have an extra hard thing, and then so in this case you kind of go forward by saying, yeah, we will do that. Let's constructively look how to do it, and you can solve issues quicker. So these review times are much faster, etc. So yeah, let's push from every side that more of these zones appear. Hopefully, I think next to each innovation hub, it would be great to have some of these.
Definitely.
So the key partner there was this Riga Development Council. So it's probably also a larger agency, or it probably works with some other agencies, but at least these keywords figure in there. So yeah, well, do we have any questions here? Maybe. I know Lauris is an eager participant, but he probably already knows everything. Maybe we have something in the chat. Let's see, we have the video. Andre or Anna, maybe you can check Facebook chat if there is something. Otherwise, I think Rūdis' lecture was extremely informative, and we can also, time-wise, we are exactly on time. So if we stop now, it will also be fine. Maybe you have some any thoughts, questions, ideas. Will you be on 26th of May in Riga?
No, sorry.
No, yeah. Well, that's fine. You will be in the second phase, you know, then the second phase is actually really, without hearing your presentation first, we specifically tried to build this competition as an iteration friendly. So you have these 3 stages. The first stage is you just create the idea, and you have 6 months where you kind of develop the idea on paper or small scale models, and then only then you go with on-site scale models in spring 2024, and then we'll see what happens after. Is it a yearly activity or bi-yearly, or maybe, you know, so the dream for Latvijas Finieris and Latvijas meži is that some more companies grow out of this, which are interested in, you know, pushing the boundaries of modularity, looking at different, because it's understandable that one project would not be able to fulfill all the criteria. Maybe there's one company who specifies specifically on adaptability, maybe one who is really eco-conscious, etc. And then you kind of start to diversify the market in different directions. So yeah, well, thank you for coming here. We are always very happy to see you, and then let's see. We will definitely trouble you for the National Library project, and some other stuff will happen. And we'll also, of course, usually work with Creative Tuesdays. So people who are watching this, you will also be able to participate. Thank you all, and see you next week when we will have Patrick, probably, who will tell us about some automation. AutoGPT. Yes.
All right.
We know that there are two things, and it's really hard for us to connect them. So we will think of a way how to connect AI with modular houses. I think there has to be a connection point, because Patrick is really good at working with AI and building these large language models, etc. But well, we will see that in the next meeting. Patrick's like, whoa. don't power. That's great. Cheers. Specifically came here from Italy. Okay, goodbye and see you next week.